What's good, everybody? Today we are going to talk about a couple of GM candidates, Michael Winger and Trajon Langdan, and we're going to talk about whether Ausar Thompson would be a fit in DC. Next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again with my guy, the real Ed Oliver. Thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA, and when you enter promo code LockedOnNBA, they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. I definitely recommend. So we're going to dig into a couple of GM candidates today. Because obviously we don't have one right now. And then we're going to talk about one of the Thompson twins and whether he could be an option at the small forward position. But let's go ahead and start with Trajon Langdan, the GM, or hopefully the former GM of the New Orleans Pelicans. So looking at a couple of moves real quick, he is responsible for drafting Zion Williamson, but also Jackson Hayes, Kyra Lewis, Trey Murphy, and Dyson Daniels. But a really highlight trade for him was trading for CJ McCollum, the former backcourt mate of Dame. So what do you like and what do you not like about Trajon Langdan?
I like the trade that he made. He traded Anthony Davis for, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, a couple guys from the Lakers. I thought that was a good trade. I thought they got some good value back because Brandon Ingram has been a great player for the Pelicans so far. CJ McCollum has been a solid player for them. They did make the playoffs one year. They made the play-in last year. They drafted Herb Jones. So he's been able to find some hidden gems or some diamonds in the rough that the Wizards have talked about in the past, getting guys in the second round or drafted guys. Jose Alvarado, Najee Marshall, second round pick, I want to say, from the DMV area. He's been pretty good for them. So they've been able to find some diamonds in the rough. Now, he did miss on Kyra Lewis. Kyra Lewis had an injury, but at the same time, he was definitely a questionable pick at 13. Then Zion Williamson is just a no-brainer pick with the first pick to draft. It was either him, or John Morant. Now, the Zion thing that's going on, just him not playing so many games, that's not Trajon Langdan's fault. Does Zion really want to be there? Jackson Hayes has kind of been a mid-tier pick, a solid rotational player, not a great pick at all. And Dyson Daniels, he's kind of a mid-rotational guy right now. Had a not a great rookie season, averaged 3 points a game. I want to say like 3 assists or something like that. So he's kind of, getting his feet wet, kind of like Johnny Davis, trying to find his place in the league. Trey Murphy was in the G League his rookie season, but he had a really good year this past season. He's the guy that a lot of Wizards fans wanted to draft instead of Corey Kispert. But like I said many times, I like Trey Murphy a lot. Virginia grad, all that, great player, athletic, 6'8", can shoot the three, can shoot the lights out. But I'm not super upset that we didn't take him over Corey Kispert because I do like Corey Kispert's game. I think he's a good shooter. Who do I think is the better player? I mean, you can probably argue for Trey Murphy, but like I said, I think Corey Kispert is going to be a fine player in the league. So they got Jonas Valanciunas, and then they had to move on from Lonzo Ball. I think that was a good move because Lonzo Ball has barely played any games in the past 2 seasons. We got Devontae Graham, who didn't really work out the point guard position, but they're still trying to figure out the point guard position, kind of like us. But they found some good players, and they've been able to overachieve. They've been able to win games without Zion. They've been able to win games without Brandon Ingram. You don't hear many excuses from Trajon Langdan, kind of like how Tommy Shepard said with guys being injured and out and stuff like that. Tommy always say, we had an incomplete grade because we missed so many guys. You never really hear that from Trajon Langdan. So I think he's a good candidate. I'm not really jumping for joy for Trajon Langdan, but I think he's a solid candidate. Went to Duke University as well, played basketball there, played overseas. I think he played a little bit in the NBA as well.
Yeah, he's a solid player, man. I remember watching him at Duke. Can't really watch too much Duke in my household because my wife's a Tar Heels fan, but I'm with you, man. I'm not banging on the door, but I would be very intrigued because his track record is decent. If you look at his trade game, man, the trade sending Anthony Davis to LA was golden, man. I mean, we all knew it was going to happen. We knew LeBron wanted him, but the talent he got, Brandon Ingram, man. They call him like what do they call him? Baby KD. Yeah. Because he's that scorer, man. You can see that scoring potential with Brandon Ingram. I'm very high on Brandon Ingram. Getting CJ McCollum, Now I wouldn't. They try to run him a point. I didn't think that was very successful. I think he should have kind of slide into the 2 guard and find that point guard. But I mean, if you look at his trade game now, the draft game, you know, it's kind of like we were talking about with John Wall and Bradley Beal. I mean, who else you gonna get? I mean, I can't give you too much credit for picking a guy that every team in the league would have chosen number one. But and so it's kind of hit or miss. Kyle Lewis has kind of been a bust. Jackson Hayes is still kind of figuring out whether he's a 4 or 5. They played him at the 4, but he's more of a 5. Trey Murphy has been decent, and Dyson Daniels is more. He's still got a lot. A long way to go as far as development. But to me, the highlight of Trajan, man, is his his trade game. Now, he did trade 2 first-round picks for Jonas Valanciunas. Valanciunas is your modern-day big. Is he worth 2 first-round picks? I don't know, but with the current market, how picks are just flying off the rails. If you look at the Rudy Gobert trade, it's understandable. And the 4 second-round picks for Josh Richardson. Again, the market value. Apparently, the NBA doesn't value second-round picks because they've been thrown around like it was nothing. So I like his trade game. Now, again, his draft game is a little, they're alright picks. They're nothing. Nobody's really gonna wow you. And plus Zion. What is his future in New Orleans? And so overall, getting back to Trajan, man, I'm intrigued. I would definitely welcome him here, but we'll see because we're still waiting on Bob. But I'd like to see Trajan, man. I like his track record. I want to see a little more from the draft side of things, but he would bring youth. He would bring a new perspective to this organization, and I think he'll definitely bring some a breath of fresh air to this organization. So I wouldn't be upset at the hiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was a report from Woj that we officially interviewed him. So they have interviewed some people. They finally made some type of baby steps towards making some type of progress. But looking back at the Giannis Valanciunas trade, it was the Grizzlies. They sent number 17 to 51 picks, draft to New Orleans as a part of the trade. The Pelicans will give up the number 10 and number 40 picks in this year's draft, as well as a top 10 protected 2022 first-round pick via the Lakers to get Giannis Valanciunas. Eric Bledsoe was also involved in the trade, too, and Eric Bledsoe did not want to be with the Pelicans, so it was a trade that they had to make. And Valanciunas is still a really good center. He's a good rebounder. He can shoot the 3. Every time he plays us, he dominates us, so I thought they made a solid trade there. Or Trajan made a solid trade there.
Yeah, I believe so, man. I wouldn't be unhappy because he's a candidate that I really like. Like I said, I think they are waiting for Bob Myron, and I'm not a guy that really tries to put all his eggs in one basket. You got to be flexible. I think that ultimately is going to come down to him or Newton. I think that's your 2 biggest candidates right now for the position because I hope it's not true. I hope that if we're going to wait for Bob Myers and maybe we acquire him, but I don't want to see us wait just to get disappointed and see a good candidate like Trajon Langdan leave. So, I definitely think that if you have a chance to hire him, I wouldn't be upset. I would definitely welcome him because, like I said, I think what we need more than anything in DC as far as Wizards fans, man, is that we just need like a change. We need something different. We need a breath of fresh air. Tommy, it's DC period, man. We just got rid of Dan Snyder. We need a change, man. We need, to bring in a new era in so many ways in DC sports, man. So again, I would definitely welcome it, man. So before we move on to the next candidate, anything else you want to cover as far as Trajan Langdan?
No, that's really it. He had to come in and make a trade and trade Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis wanted to leave, so it's kind of a different situation because Brad, he wants to be here. So that's the only thing I can see similar to that situation. But yeah, I think he's a good candidate. I think he's a solid candidate.
Yes, sir. I totally agree. So we're gonna get into the next candidate, Michael Winger. But before we do, today's episode is brought to you by Birddog, and there's 3 things I want to highlight when it comes to Birddog shorts and pants. Fit, comfort, and versatility. Fit. They look better and feel great. I'm telling you, they are dope. It's good fit. Comfort, very comfortable. Their stretchy fabric makes my legs look great, and they're comfier than any other shorts and pants. But I'm telling you, look, real talk, they are very, very, very comfortable. Versatile. You can wear them for a walk. You can even wear them to work out. I actually tested them doing squats. I mean, they're very versatile. I don't know why you'd wear them to do squats, but that option is out there. But fit, comfort, and versatility are what highlights Birddogs. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA, and when you enter promo code LockedOnNBA, they're throwing a free custom Bird Dog Yeti style tumbler with every order. And again, I definitely recommend it. I can't say enough about Bird Dogs. Again, they are very comfortable. They fit just right, and they're very versatile to any type of lifestyle you got, whether you're working out, general breeze, or you just hanging out for the day. So again, I definitely recommend Bird Dogs, y'all. And thanks for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow. We're going to talk about Cam Whitmore a little bit, and we're going to dig into some more candidates for the vacant GM position. So definitely tune in because, man, it's going to be a wild offseason Wiz fans. So get into the next candidate. We're going to get into Michael Winger. Now, looking at his track record real quick, he has one Western Conference Finals appearance. He did draft SGA, who he then flipped to OKC for 5 first-round picks, along with 5 first-round picks for Paul George. He signed Kawhi Leonard, and looking at a couple of trades real quick, trading Mo Harkless and a first-round pick for Marcus Morris, and trading John Wall and Luke Kennard for Eric Gordon and 3 second-round picks. So just like with the previous one, what stands out to you and what concerns you when it comes to Michael Winger?
Yeah, I thought he made some good picks. I think he went all in. You had an owner in Steve Ballmer, who is kind of the opposite of who we got with Ted. Steve Ballmer is willing to spend money. He's willing to spend money. He's going to give up picks or whatever it takes to get a winner. And they got a new stadium coming up in LA. So, Steve Ballmer, he's just a guy he's ready. He's willing to push the chips in. He's going to pay the tax. He's not going to think twice. I mean, that's the owner that he has with the Clippers. But, getting Kawhi is from there. So that kind of helped Michael Winger get Kawhi Leonard there. Paul George, he wanted to team up with Kawhi Leonard. So that kind of made it easier for Michael Winger. But drafting SGA is a heck of a draft pick because you were able to develop him and he turned into a great player. And then you were able to trade him for Paul George. Now, they have underachieved with injuries. That's kind of out of Michael Winger's control. But once again, I haven't really listened to any interviews from Michael Winger. I don't know if he said, injuries all the time is why they didn't win, which it is clear. I mean, when Kawhi Leonard has multiple knee injuries, and then this past playoffs, once again, he doesn't even play in game 3 and 4. He played in game 1. They actually beat the Suns in game 1. And then Kawhi Leonard just doesn't play again. And Paul George, once again, has a knee injury. So it's just your best players that you're banking on, they're just not available, So now he did draft Jerome Robinson. Let me see what draft that was in, the former Wizards. So that was not a good pick at all. And then after that, they just didn't have any draft picks for the most part. They did have a second-round pick in Terrence Mann, who's been a really good guy for them, a solid rotational player for them, a good guy off the bench or starting. So that was a good pick. And after that, they just didn't have any draft picks. They did trade for Bones Highland, a guy that I like. And then they signed Russell Westbrook via buyout. I thought that was a good pick. Russell Westbrook looked good in the second half of the season. Eric Gordon looked good in the second half of the season. They had Montrezl Harrell, who was the 6th man of the year for the Clippers. So that was a good pick. They had Lou Williams. He had to make the decision to fire Doc Rivers. They brought in Tyronn Lue, which was a good decision. So he's made some tough decisions with coaching and players as well. I like what he's done. And then when he first came in, he had to make the decision to trade Blake Griffin, which wasn't hard, which you can really compare that to Bradley Beal. Once again, a player in Blake Griffin who's a really good player, but he's just not going to get you over the hump and over the top. And at that time when Blake Griffin got traded, he still was a good player, but they traded him to the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons ended up making the playoffs. They lost in the first round, but he traded Blake Griffin for Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, a 2018 first-round pick and a 2019 second-round pick. So not a bad trade at all. And then after they made that trade, they actually did make the playoffs that year. What year was that? 2018. Oh, I'm sorry, not 2018. But I want to say they made that trade in 2018 or around that time. But those players they got back, they were able to make it work. And they still won games and lost in the first round with Tobias Harris being their best player. So they still were able to be a competitive team for sure. And so I think Michael Winger, and he was with OKC as well with the Thunder. He learned under Sam Presti how to build a team, rebuild a team. So I'm intrigued with Michael Winger. I think he's an intriguing guy. I don't know if he really is banging on the table either to leave Los Angeles to come to DC. So I don't know how realistic it is that he will come to DC.
Yeah, I'm intrigued too. And his trade game is decent. But I think what the characteristics about him that kind of stand out to me is the fact that he can operate in an environment where you have very minimal cap space and you don't have a lot of draft picks and still be relatively successful. I get it. The Clippers, they never won that title. They never made it but so far. And that was the big knock against that era. of Chris Paul and the Lob Cities. They only made it so far as a regular season team. But, look, I think a lot of arrows are pointing towards us moving forward with the solid three. The organization hasn't said anything to the contrary. Now, they've been very secretive, to some points, a little too secretive because they haven't found a new GM yet. But maybe they try to rebuild, but he doesn't seem to me as a rebuilding GM. You know what I mean? He seems like a guy who's going to work with a certain, a certain situation. Like I say, he can navigate a team that has very minimal cap space and not many draft picks and still field a playoff ready team, which, under the current model under Ted Leonsis, which he wants to go to playoffs every year, whether it's, one and done, whether it's playing. But so he fits the mold of the timeline and the goal of what the current goal of the, the ownership is. So yeah, he's definitely intriguing. I would say both of them are definitely intriguing. I wouldn't be upset. I mean, at this point, I'm gonna be real with you, brother. I wouldn't be upset if anybody got a job, man. I mean, look, I just want a GM, but I think just like Trajan, man, he would be an upgrade. He definitely knows how to navigate around stars. So I would definitely welcome it. Going back to his track record, it's kind of meh. You see good moves here and there. I mean, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George is just it's tough, man, because there's a lot of talent there, and it's just the injuries, man, the injuries. And it's going to be one of those what ifs, man. I mean, what if they were healthy? Paul George and Kawhi on paper, that's a solid squad, especially they were able to find good pieces to surround them with. The kind of and the thing. Here's another thing I'm gonna highlight is that the pieces he found, they worked around the weaknesses of their stars. So I mean, as far as building a team, I am very, very intrigued. But again, the injuries you can't really put on him. Him getting off of Luke Kennard's contract, which, shooters in the NBA, for some reason, they get those bags, man. And then when people figure out they can't play defense, they try to move on. So they become really hard contracts to move. So he's able to get off of Luke Kennard. But again, Luke Kennard, if I believe so, he was a big part of that come from behind Clippers victory against us. What was it? Not last year, but the year before. So Luke Kennard had a lot to do with that. So I'm not going to harp on, I'm not going to diss him too much, but yeah, I'm intrigued. I think that, again, he would be a really good candidate. They're both really good candidates. It's just, we'll see. Because right now, there's not a lot of news coming out about, who are they, kind of leaning towards. You haven't heard anything on that front. So it's really is anybody's guess who's going to be the next GM. And it's just from the timeline of Bob Myers, it seems to us and a lot of Wizards fans and a lot of executives around the NBA that they're waiting on Bob Myers. And that's fine. You always aim high. But I don't want to see us sit here and wait for him to make a decision and rub these other guys the wrong way. Because if I'm a candidate and I went in for an interview and you see the job that you're trying to get come out publicly or kind of publicly and say, well, we're going to wait on this other candidate. And if we don't get them, then we're going to go ahead and go and hire you, man. To me, that's not good business. You got to they got to make a decision. And I think that, there's a lot of good candidates they talk to. Winger's good, Trajan, Newton. I think they have enough candidates right now that they can make that decision. So again, without beating a dead horse, man, just like Trajon Langdan, I would not be disappointed if we brought Michael Winger and BRGM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're both solid candidates. They made some good moves. Not home run guys, but I think they're good candidates. They made some good trades and a couple of, Winger with the Shea Gilgeous pick, and then Langdon has done a really good job finding later round picks or undrafted guys to come in and play really, really well. But yeah, I mean, the GM search right now, they're stringing it out. The Wizards are always they always take a slow, long process. They could be waiting on Bob Myers. Bob Myers might even take a year off, so who knows? It's certainly a gamble. Now, we were talking about the workouts yesterday that have already happened with the draft. Now, I guess, I won't get too upset about it because, if Trajan Langdon is working out guys at the Pelicans, he can bring his knowledge over here. So, we can look at it that way. But it would be nice to have a general manager there with less than a month away from the NBA draft.
Woo! Yeah, it's cutting close, man. It's cutting real close, man. Man. So those are our two candidates that we talked about today. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. We got a mailbag question from a listener/viewer that talks about Ausar Thompson and whether he could be an option at the small forward position. But before we move on to that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon NBA. And I'll tell you this, man, FanDuel is doing a lot right now. That is my go-to. It's just definitely my first choice when it comes to betting. And it's just the parlays is a big plus. Cashing out. It's just there's so many pluses to FanDuel. Make FanDuel a fast break for the NBA playoffs because right now new customers can get again a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back and bonus bets. So definitely log in, participate, definitely capitalize on that. FanDuel. And thanks for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow. On the show, again, we are going to look at Cam Whitmore and whether he could be a fit at our pick and where he fits in his lineup. And we're going to look at some more GM candidates because, again, the GM position is vacant. So looking at this question actually comes from The Truth. And his question is, even though Ausar is a small forward, would you take him? And if so, what would you do about the point guard situation? Ausar wouldn't thrive with a guard like Monte. He needs someone that can drive the rim, etc. What do you think, E?
I'm a big fan of Ausar Thompson's game, man. I like his shooting form. Shooting is not his calling card, but I think he'll develop into a good shooter in the league. He's a good defender as well. Super athletic. Just an explosive athlete. Him and his brother are just super explosive. Of course, there's the knock on the OTE, the Overtime Elite League. Did he play against good competition? What is he, 20 years old, playing against guys who are 17, 18 years old. But I think he's a good playmaker. I love his ability to playmake, get downhill, transition, of course, block shots. Defensively, I found a number. He averaged 3.5 steals and blocks per 40 minutes in the Overtime Elite League. So I think he's a guy that could be somewhat of a 3-and-D guy. But I think he's very versatile. I think he's a guy that can definitely put the ball on the floor and get past his man and playmake, man. I think that's an underrated skill for Ausar Thompson. So I'm really high on him, man. If he does fall to 8, which a lot of mock drafts don't have him falling to pick 8, I think just talent, you may have to think about best player available. You just have to get elite. The Wizards don't have a lot of athleticism on their team. They don't have a lot of elite athletes on the team. The only guys you can really think of that are elite athletes that play above the rim is probably Gaff, Quentin Jackson. And that's really it. Maybe Kristaps only because he's 7'3", so he's already above the rim. But Ausar would certainly bring in some explosiveness, some athleticism, and some playmaking ability. Now, would he fit next to Monte? Monte can't really get it past. He doesn't get into the paint that much. But I think he would still be a successful player with Washington. I just love his aggressiveness and his tenacity as well. So I like Ausar Thompson a lot. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go top 5 in this year's draft.
I'll say this, man. I'm one of those people that are a little concerned of the competition. I'll be honest with you. The level of competition does scare me a little, but I am intrigued by his skill set. Again, he's got athleticism. He's definitely a Skywalker. He's athletic, man. He can come in and be successful. But I think, what is the timeline with his success? Because to me, there's still some areas that he needs to work on. And in my opinion, in this year's draft, we need a guy who's going to come in and be able to come to start. And that's why I kind of add towards Cam Whitmore as opposed to the Thompson twins, because I think, players like Cam Whitmore or Anthony Black, they can come in and start. We need a guy who comes in, because that's the biggest knock against the Wizards for our draft choices, man, is that we're doing all right with getting these role guys. But, when's the last time we got a guy who came in outside of, Bill and John Wall, who with, number 1 and number 3 picks, you got to start them because, especially in a rebuilding team. But when's the last time we got a guy to come in and automatically start? Now, you can say Rui. We started him. We started Denny a little bit. But, are either one of them starters? I don't know. We haven't really drafted a guy who came in. And to me, Cam Whitmore is more NBA ready, man, just body-wise. His competition, Villanova. So to me, that's why I add towards him. And it's not a knock against the Thompson twins. I see what a lot of people saying, including yourself, man, is that they have a lot of athleticism. They have the intangibles to be something special in the NBA. It's just, to me, is a timeline and fit with the organization. Do they fit the timeline? Number 8 pick for a guy that we're going to have to develop on the bench. Because in my opinion, I don't know if he can come in and start. I feel like there's parts of his game that he needs to work on to take that step to be a starter. So I'm very intrigued by his skill set. And I think that he is definitely a talent that could go top 10, man, because they're talented. Him and his brother, they're talented. They're going to be special in the NBA. It's just, I believe that for their longevity of their careers, man, They need to go somewhere where they can be properly developed, which is not here because we've had issues with developing. I think as far as picking a guy that we need to develop, just for the sake of the player, keep him away from DC. And I hate to say that, but we need to step our game up as far as development. We really do. And so I don't want to bring in a guy that we're going to have to develop just to turn around and have him play in the G League for half a year. I want a guy who's going to come in and be NBA ready. So yeah, am I intrigued by him? Absolutely. But I just don't think he's the right pick for us. I don't think he's the right fit.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, whoever comes in here, we need them to hit the ground running because we're on Bradley Beal's timeline, which is making the playoffs. We're not on a developing timeline. Like, you look at the Rockets and who else? The Magic and who else was really bad? Not the Thunder, but I mean, you get the point of the teams that the Spurs, who are just playing guys to develop guys, and then you get the first pick of the draft. So, but I do think he can contribute. I think defensively he would bring some tenacity, athleticism. I think finishing above the rim, around the rim, and like I said, I like his creativity too. I think he can put the ball on the floor than what more people think, more than what consensus says. So I like him a lot. I think he would be a BPA pick 8. He's not what we need. Of course, we need a point guard. So you look at Anthony Black, Hassan Wallace. I like Jalen Shifiano out of Indiana too. But I mean, if he falls, I mean, it's a steal. It really is. It's a steal. But yeah, the OTE league is somewhat of a concern. But I think Ausar will come in day one and definitely make a positive impact on this roster.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not down on him. I really do think he has the talent to be a really great basketball player. And I think that if we get him, I'm not going to be disappointed because his athleticism, like you said, his defense, I think we're a better team with him. It's just, it's really on him, man. I don't want us to jack his career up. I hate to say that, but he needs to be properly developed because the level of competition, he has all the athleticism. When you got these guys who are, relatively raw, but they have that out of this world athleticism, they have to be developed right, man. Because there's been a long list of NBA guys, man, that came in the league and they went to really jacked up situations and you didn't get all you could out of them. And it derailed their careers. I don't want to see that for them. I think they have a lot of upside. But again, if we get them, I'm just hoping and I'm praying, man, just develop them right, play him right. That's all I ask. But I would not be disappointed at all with him. But like you said, and like I, said earlier, I just believe we need a guy who's NBA ready. He's going to come in and he's going to be able to start right away. And I say this a lot. I know all y'all tired hearing me say it. I'm obviously big on Ken Whitmore. And the reason for that is just he's NBA ready. And that's what we need right now. Looking at point guard, that's interesting. Because obviously if you make a move for a small forward and we don't have another, because I think we should go and get another first rounder. If we indeed don't get another first round pick, what are the options at point guard? But we both said earlier, man, we don't think the best case scenario for this team is a rookie point guard, even though we're both intrigued by Anthony Black. And I would not be disappointed. Matter of fact, I would definitely welcome him here. But, maybe a veteran is better suited at the point guard position. And I think that would help relegate, Monte. Yeah, Monte's not going to get the best out of his, the shooters and open up, the floor. He didn't have that penetration to open up the offense. It's stagnated. And so definitely we need a guy who's going to be able to find open shooters, who's going to collapse the defense and really open up shooters on the court. But so, yeah, looking at point guard, I think that if we do not go Anthony Black or Hassan Wallace in this draft, we're going to go for a veteran. Or, I mean, this is not the most popular, but I've seen this. But you could see us maybe start DeLon Wright. I mean, defensively, he's up there. If we don't find our point guard this year, maybe we take a year, put DeLon out there. He's on a one-year contract. Maybe run him a point and have Jordan Goodwin on the second unit. That's an option. It's just, I think we do have options. I know that we all desperately want that point guard in the future because I'm with you. I want that next guy. But, if we indeed go get a wing, you very well could see a veteran or maybe even DeLon Wright start. So we have options, but the options are drying up a little bit, especially, once the ink is dry on the contracts or the potential contracts for Kyle Kuzma and KP, it's going to be really hard to really surround them with talent. So those are some options. So
yeah, definitely very well said. So we're gonna definitely talk about some more draft picks. I want to say we have Howard Beck coming on tomorrow or sometime this week.
Yes, sir.
So we want to make sure you guys check that out this week. We just want to thank you guys for making lots of Wizards your first listen every day. Every day or tomorrow on the show, we will, like I said, either talk to Howard back. We're talking about some draft stuff. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Make sure you guys subscribe to the notification bell. Subscribe on wherever you get a podcast as well. Hell to the Wizards. Peace.